Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 28, and for today, we will explain and present on the Shariah Audit Program of Tawarruq Deposits Product for Ambank. Ambank Group is a leading financial services group with over 40 years of expertise in supporting the economic development of Malaysia. They have over 3 million customers and employ over 9,000 people throughout Malaysia. The group was listed on the main market of Bursa Malaysia in 1988. It is the sixth largest banking group by assets in Malaysia, with a market capitalization around 9 billion ringgit and assets of 170.2 billion ringgit Malaysia as at 31 March 2021. Well, this presentation is a review of Ambank's Tawarruq Deposit Product Shariah Audit Program. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Sobri bin Ahmad Ismail Yazid. My metric number 1182801, and I will be elaborating on testing objective 1, which is product is offered and comply with all the BNM requirements, applicable laws and regulations. Okay, for audit criteria, there are three criteria that we impose, which are BNM guidelines on product developments, product disclosure sheet, and as well as Tawarruq policy document. Next, we move on to the risk associated, which are failure in complying to rules and regulations, which will cause the financial statement to be materially misstated, and changes of procedures in BNM guidelines on Tawarruq contract product. Next, we have key control, which product is offered based on the relevant guidelines, such as BNM's guideline. Next, advice is obtained from the second line of defense parties before the approval process of the product. And lastly, the approval is sought from the Shariah Committee and BNM prior to the product launching. And lastly, the audit test or step. There are three steps in this audit testing objective number 1, which are review the structure of products by referring to the guidelines issued by SAC or Shariah Audit Council, BNM, and minutes of meeting of the SAC. And then review the advice given by relevant parties prior to the approval process. And lastly, review of the approvals for the product by respective approving authority, including approval by the Shariah Committee. That's all for me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Hakim bin Fauzi, FA number 118150. Okay, so today I'm going to present to you about the testing objective 2, which is product is offered and comply with the essential and necessary conditions of the Tawarruq contract. Okay, so for the first one is audit criteria and guidelines on product development product. Second one, disclosure sheet, and the third one is Tawarruq policy documents. Here, for risk, as stated, the commodity is not available for purchase at the time of the transaction. Second one is in the product disclosure, the cost and markup are not disclosed, and the last one is the staffs and related approval parties do not follow the Tawarruq arrangements transaction order. Okay, the key control on the regular basis, employees are instructed on such regulations and processes. The secondly is to ensure that the order is followed, the required approving parties are constituted. Okay, and her last one is audit test. Firstly is examine the product disclosure sheet for clarification of the Tawarruq arrangements, as well as cost and markup price disclosure. The second is examine the sequence transactions based on the samples you have chosen. The last one is in order to assess the understanding of the general criteria and the overall process, interview the staff and relevant approving parties. Okay, I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Shaznan bin Muhammad Rozalan. My metric number is 118200. Now I will proceed about the testing objective number 3, which is product transparency and disclosure. Okay, first is for the audit criteria. There are three criteria for this. Number one is product disclosure sheet. Number two is BNM guideline on product transparency and disclosure. Number three is specific terms and conditions for commodity murabahah based term deposit. Next is risk associated. There are two risks. First is the bank provided insufficient product disclosure. Number two is the bank fails to disclose critical product information such as fee and charge imposed upon opening a deposit account, as well as other terms and conditions. Number three is K control. While preparing the product disclosure sheet, the bank must follow the disclosure standards, which are that the disclosure should be timely, clear and concise, accurate and relevant, and emphasize significant facts. And lastly is the Shariah commit must approve product information such as fee and charge in the product disclosure sheet. Last but not least is the audit test or step. Examining the product's disclosure in the product disclosure sheet against B&M's product transparency and disclosure guidelines. Review the Shariah commit product disclosure approval and examine product-related legal documents such as the actual fees and levies imposed on the customer. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Afiq Farhan bin Sabar. My metric number is 18143. So I will continue the presentation with testing objective 5, which on the product comply with the element of the supplementary contracts wakalah. So there is 4 points that I want to share. The first one is the audit criteria. The product comply with the element of the supplementary contracts of wakalah must be a wakalah policy document. Next, the product disclosure sheet. The third one is the resolution of the Shariah Advisory Council of the Securities Commission Malaysia. And lastly is must follow the BNM guideline on wakalah. So for the next point, the risk associated on the product comply with the element of the supplementary contracts of wakalah. So the first risk associated is the risk of non-compliance with the Shariah. And then the product did not meet the requirement of the wakalah contract. And lastly, the IFISS capacities and effective system are adequate. So the key control the for product comply with the element of the supplementary contracts of wakalah. The wakalah contract is need to be documented as an on to the broader procedure. And last, the wakalah contract is truly brief to ensure that all requirements are understood. So, and lastly, the last step is the audit test or the steps. There is need to check if the wakalah contract complies with the all Shariah ruling. And next, it must be analysed the personnel in order to determine their comprehension of the wakalah contracts requirement. And lastly, it need to be examined the use of the wakalah contract in every Tawarruq transaction or on a case-by-case basis. So that's all from me. Thank you.
As a conclusion, Ambank Islamic has some products based on the Islamic. Example is Tawarruq. Moreover, Ambank Islamic Berhad should be improved the quality of Shariah audit function and focus on achieve the maqasid Shariah. During our analysis of this bank, we discover the five main objective. For example, audit criteria, risk associate, key control, and audit test. This analysis is crucial for the banking industry to improve the present Shariah audit objective by comparing them to all the objective. Just all from us. Thank you for watching.